I sat down with April Hutchinson, a powerlifter who was suspended from the Canadian Powerlifting Union for speaking out against the unfairness of males invading female sports and spaces. Here's that conversation. April Hutchinson, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. Really appreciate your time. Hi.
Hello. Yeah, finally nice to be talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, we planned to do this a bit sooner than today, but we finally got around to it because life got in the way, I think, for both of us. So I want to start with a little bit of a background. I wanted to ask you how you got into powerlifting in the first place.
Yeah, so how I got into powerlifting, I mean, people probably think, oh, it's such a specific sport. But I was always an athlete growing up. My father got me into sports when I was 5 years old. I was born very much so into an athletic family. I have an older brother, 5 years older than myself. My dad was always the coach of all my sports. My brother played sports. My grandfather was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. I was always, I played track and field, ringette, baseball, you name it. And I always excelled at every kind of sport I went into. Now, the reason why I go way back to my childhood, because I think it's very important to kind of tell you, I guess, the grassroots of, not just my upbringing and why I got into sports, but also some childhood experiences that kind of led me down certain, paths, right? And why
Mhm.
I am the person I am today. So when I was 5 years old, I actually got sexually abused by my neighbor for a period of 2 years. And after that happened, I actually, I guess I would say maybe identify. I wouldn't say the word identify as a boy, but I think I was just an everyday tomboy.
Mhm.
I know I had my little bowl cut. I cut my hair off short. I can remember cutting my Barbie's hair off short too. um, Wearing baggy sweatshirts, hanging out with the boys. But I always thought, like, if I kind of molded in and blended in with the boys, that men won't touch me anymore. And that was my way of protecting myself, so I wouldn't get hurt anymore. And then when puberty came around, I mean, that was very, very awkward. It was probably the worst time of my life. And I didn't have a way of protecting myself because, I was developing, boys were noticing me. I didn't have a shield of protection. The baggy clothes weren't really cutting it anymore.
Mhm.
So I actually got into drinking alcohol at that time. It was kind of everywhere in my house. My father was a drinker. He was
At
a
what
police
age?
officer.
At what
What's
age?
that? At 12. At 12.
12.
I
Well, that's
yeah,
young.
yeah. I mean,
Before we get into that, I want to mention that I I didn't have the same horrific experience as you, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. That sounds horrible, and I understand why your reaction would be such that it was. When I was young, I also thought that, oh, I want to be a boy. That's what I told my mom, and
mhm.
I didn't understand why that was. I was a tomboy. I was interested in, swords, shields, guns, all that stuff. And I told my mom, "Mom, I'm a boy and this is my boy name." And what I realized after the fact was there was a boy that lived in the neighborhood and I just had a crush on him and that was his name, and I was just a 5-year-old girl who had a crush on a slightly older boy, so I thought I wanted to be a boy. It was completely misguided thoughts. And if I was born today to woke parents in 2025, they
Yeah,
would for sure trans me. So uh, so grateful to have been born to parents in the 80s, not in this country, that
yeah.
couldn't that didn't even know what the heck this all this gender nonsense was.
No, same.
So you
Yes,
said
yeah.
you got into alcohol at 12.
Yes. So
How did that
I,
happen?
like I said, the alcohol back then, I mean, it was just readily available. It was in my house. I can remember stealing it from the liquor cabinet and drinking, taking it to school with me. I mean, that was my way of coping with puberty and developing, but also being around boys. Because I mean, that's when boys were noticing me. That was me, because all my friends were dating boys and kissing boys, and show me yours, I'll show you mine. Kind of awkward stages.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what got me through the puberty stage. And I mean, I was still playing sports. That was also my outlet. And then also, I mean, I think by the time I was 18, I can still remember coming home from high school. And I think I was, that was grade 12. coming home and drinking 2 bottles of red wine, from taking that from my parents' wine cellar and drinking that before they
18.
yeah, before they got home from work.
Wow.
So I would say at the age of 18, I was probably a full-blown alcoholic. My parents didn't notice that at that time, but probably by the age of 22, that's when I first entered my first rehab, facility.
Mhm.
But I mean, what 22-year-old wants to get sober? So I mean, I kind of had a lifelong career and held down a decent job my whole life, being a functioning alcoholic. Again,
Mhm.
still playing sports until I hit my early 40s, and then my doctor basically gave me a death sentence and said, you know, if you don't quit drinking, you'll be dead within 2 years. At
Wow.
that time, my skin was pretty much gray. I was vomiting. I couldn't even walk 10 feet without projectile vomiting. I was having seizures. I was passing out. I couldn't take care of myself. My alcohol at that time was my medicine to function. So I had tried to quit and wean off, but the withdrawal was just so horrible that I couldn't do it on my own.
Mhm.
Knowing that I didn't have anything in my life, I didn't have a job. I mean, my boyfriend at the time, we split up. I didn't have anything. I actually overdosed on vodka and pills because I wanted to end my life.
Oh my gosh.
And I actually obviously survived. And I woke up in an ICU unit on a breathing tube. And that was my crossroads. And that's when I woke up and I said, you know what? I have to do something. Like, do I want to live or do I want to die? And that's when I decided to put myself into rehab. And I did the 28-day program. And when I came out, which was actually 2019, which was only a couple months before COVID hit,
Mhm.
and I got into powerlifting and everything was closed down, all the gyms, everything. And my friend opened up he made his garage into a gym. And I trained every day, 2 hours a day, and just build and build and build. And no competitions were happening. And I just trained for 2 hours for 2 years every day. And when I had my first competition, that qualified me for nationals. And when I went through, I got gold medal, and that put me right through to worlds. And that was in 2022. So, I mean, and the rest was kind of history. I just kept on competing and getting gold medals. And I still hold the North American deadlift record
Wow.
today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you're an athlete your whole life. You battled alcoholism. You got over that. You got into powerlifting. You're crushing it. You're holding a record. And then, you said some facts and that got you into some trouble by a whole bunch of woke people. Can you recap that and expand on that a bit?
Yeah, so when I was training in my friend's garage, when everything was shut down, I was on a Facebook powerlifting group and I met this person who went by the name of Anne. And Anne would ask me a lot of questions because they were pretty new to powerlifting. I knew they had a couple competitions under their belts and they won gold medals. And I would just give them some tips, and finally we were talking about Laura Hubbard in the Olympics, and Laura Hubbard is a male, and and Anne character was like, oh well, we're just talking about the unfairness of it all. And I said, oh, I can't believe they let men compete in women's sports. And Anne said, well, I'm a man. I've been competing. And I said, what? Like, I thought you were a woman. And he's like, no, I'm a man. And I said, well, you should not be competing in the women's category. And I said, I'm going to tell the federation. And I said, how far do you wish to go? And he's like, well, I want to go as far as I can. I want to go to worlds. I want to go to nationals. And I said, "And if you do, I will speak up." And he then blocked and deleted me. And I have never spoken to Anne ever since.
Of course.
So I wrote the Federation. They ignored me. I literally wrote them a 2-page document of all the harms, not just physical, but mental harms that would cause women if we had to compete against men. Because I was in a tested federation. Like, so we couldn't take steroids or drugs or anything. It was all natural.
Mhm.
Um, so they basically just allowed a man to identify as a woman, whether on hormones or not. There was no testosterone testing either. So there was no levels or anything. Like my husband could literally walk in tomorrow, identify as a female, and compete. Um, so I basically wrote them, and then I started posting stuff on my Instagram saying stuff like "Save women's sports."
Mhm.
keep men out of women's sports. And they actually wrote me, that got their attention. And they actually emailed me a warning saying, you can't say stuff like that. That's hate speech. This is your first warning. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was
Were
like
they
in
citing
shock.
any laws? Like, were they citing any
There
specific
was like
laws or
there was a code of conduct in
Mhm.
their policies that say that you must treat other lifters with respect
Mm,
and that we encourage that you use pronouns. But all I was saying was save women's sports and keep men out of women's sports. I didn't mention people's names. I didn't say anything. I was literally just using that slogan that Riley Gaines was using.
right.
So then I reached out to Riley Gaines and icons and some of the Olympic athletes in the States. I also got in touch with Linda Blade, Dr. Linda Blade from Alberta,
Mhm.
and I got their help with my situation. And they wrote them like a 6-page letter, and they ignored that letter. And again, I posted something and it gave me a warning about, oh, you can't say, keep men out of women's sports. So I watched Anne go into the regionals and just crush 3 Alberta records and still holds 2 of those records today in Alberta for,
Oh,
I
wow, I
believe,
did not know that.
yeah, Anne still holds those records right now today, even though the legislation has changed in Alberta.
Mhm.
Um, and still holds those records. So unfortunately, I wish they had put that in the legislation that any records held by a man would be stripped, but maybe down the road that will change. But
Right.
after I saw Anne take those records, I went on the Pierce Morgan show and I actually called Anne a biological male, which I would never say that today. That was 2 years ago that I called Anne a biological male. Today I would just call Anne a man.
A man,
Um,
yeah.
but
That's what he is.
there's no types of males. There's only male and female. Okay.
Right.
There's no cisgender, there's no biological males, there's just male and female. So by calling Anne a male, I got suspended for 2 years from my federation. And I
Wow.
also did this interview in my spare time, on my free time.
The
So
Piers Morgan interview? Right.
yes.
So you stated a fact and you got
Mhm.
suspended for 2 years. Did you try to appeal? Did people
I
come
Yes, I did appeal. So after they suspended me, they changed their policy so that if anyone has a complaint to the federation, they have to go through a third party company. So they just wanted to wipe their hands clean and not have anything to do with it. So I had to contact some third party, very woke company. Like they even had like the little trans rainbow flag on their
Oh gosh.
website, so I had to go through them. I found a really good, I mean, human rights lawyer. I don't know if you know Lisa Bildy. She's amazing.
Oh, yeah,
And
I've heard of her.
yeah, and Rebel News actually funded my lawyer,
Mhm.
and we fought it, and it got reduced to a year.
Okay.
Now, mind you, let's keep in mind a lot of viewers might not know this, but the same male powerlifter, Anne, all this time through the 2 years had an Instagram account and was literally making death threats towards me, like live on Instagram, and made death threats towards Daniel Smith, where we had to call the Calgary police,
Wow.
made fun of females for being weak, just degraded us and did all these different things. And not once did he get even just a verbal warning. They catered to this man's feelings and
They
didn't
catered to
care
his
about
delusions and to his
his
violent conduct,
his mental illness. I'll just
mental
call it
illness.
out and say what it is. They cared more
Exactly.
about this man's mental illness, and him saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to commit suicide if I don't have my way. Oh, I'm just going to go drink this 40 ounce of vodka if I don't get my way.
That's a
Oh,
manipulator. He
yeah, what
sounds
would
like a
be?
manipulator and an abuser because that reminds me
Yeah,
of abusive tactics, uh,
yes.
that happen in intimate relationships where a man
Mhm.
threatens suicide if he doesn't get his way from his partner, where he makes death threats, and that's wild that
Yeah.
This person is allowed to say such heinous, dangerous, almost sounds like illegal things, like you can't utter death threats, and
Yeah.
the organization that suspended you for stating a simple fact is allowing him to say these things without any repercussions, without any punishment?
No, it's and the police went to his door, and obviously I'm calling him he, and then the police went to his door and questioned Anne, and then the police called me back and go, well, she, and I'm like, no, it's not a she, like, it's just, and it's a, and the police won't do anything. I mean, we've all been to these protests, and the police don't touch them. They can throw eggs, they can beat you, they can, like, I've been to these talks where they can get away with anything, and they won't touch it. And
I would
um
say that these people are not oppressed. I would say that these
yeah.
people are
Oh,
privileged.
they're the
Anne
top of
is
the
enjoying
hierarchy. Yeah.
actual male privilege right now
Yes.
by being a
Yeah.
man
No,
who's
this is
untouchable by the authorities.
yeah, Jordan Peterson said it way back in the day. It's they are the top of the hierarchy right now. Is that's what it is. So
Yeah.
and it's really sad that they push. I mean, I've said this a long time ago. They have pushed women and girls' safety and rights to the back burner. They don't care the fact that, I've used powerlifting to help maintain my sobriety and my mental health. I
Mhm.
know a girl that used basketball to stay safe off the streets instead of smoking crack. Well, she's now into basketball. We all have our reason for playing sports, for being on a team. Maybe it's community, maybe it's togetherness. And at the end of the day, well, this isn't anti-trans. This is not this is not hate. All we want is our female category back. I have friends who identify as trans. I don't have to believe in trans, but we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? But it's not anti-trans. This is pro-woman. This is
Yeah.
pro-safety. And this is pro-fairness. All we want is our female category back and to have a co-ed category, much like what Alberta has done. And all we want back is our female-only washrooms and our locker rooms. And you guys can have your universal or your co-ed, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But we need to be protected. And this is about safety.
Yeah,
So
I like, your mission. I think I read it on your website that just says you just wanna keep female sports, and I assume just female and girl spaces only female. That's all that you wanna
exactly.
do. There's no
Yeah.
hate involved. We You just wanna
No,
affirm biological reality.
exactly.
Yeah. And I just wanna pivot
Mhm.
back to you mentioned Danielle Smith. I wanna pivot back to that. I think I saw a picture of you with her on your website there. Did you
Yeah.
work with her to develop any of the legislation that she's put forth recently? Did you work, on any bills with her?
Well, I know, so there's Bill 29, and then I was present for that at the legislature when it was passed, which is really great. We were all in the house, and I know Linda Blade did sit down with her. I did sit down with Linda Blade and her LGBT plus advisor because
Mhm.
they did want to sit down and hear what we, especially myself as an athlete, like what did we want to see in this legislation. When I did meet her in the green room, I had a quick chat with her, and she obviously knew who I was, and she kind of heard my story quickly, and she asked me like, what would I want to see, and I mean, I kind of knew they already had a plan out of what they wanted to do, right? And so,
Mhm.
I mean, at the end of the day, what would be wonderful would be in every sport, same with the IOC, with every team sport would just be make it solid would be cheek swab test, right? I mean, at the end of the day,
Right,
that's what's that's going to be 100% pure, right? Proof.
right.
But I mean, we can't do that. Obviously, I mean, not in Alberta right now. That's not what they're doing. But I mean, to me, I'm sorry, but with sports, if you want to play a sport, there comes consequences. I mean, so you can't sit there and say, well, no, I should be. I mean, I had to take urine tests to make sure I
Yeah,
was clean. That's a
yeah,
consequence.
yeah,
So if you want to play a sport and take a cheek swab test, that's called a consequence. So every time you sign up for something, that's a consequence that you're going to have to go through. So right now, it's if someone does play a sport to protect the female category, it's going to be based on basically signing a paper saying that I am female. I'm
mhm.
going into the female category. But if someone does say, no, I think that's a male, then you're going to have to prove that with your birth registration, not a passport, but your registration that you are female. So
That makes me think to however many years back when we still understood biological reality and none of this would have to be this complicated. Female
it's,
sports were for female sports, and that was it. No papers needed to be signed or
I
anything like
know
that. I hope we can get to that point at some time in the future. Are you hopeful about it?
isn't it crazy? Like you know, I just remember the Olympics when everyone was bickering online about the boxers, like how long that went on for. No, he's male. No, he's female. Like I just, and then the whole DSD argument. Like
Are you
that
talking
was
about Emaine Khalif or
yeah. Like that
there
was
was
just
also before that, I think there was a trans boxer who I think cracked a woman's skull. I think it
yeah.
was
That was the
Fallon Hall.
MMA. And Skylar, yeah, Skylar Fox or whatever.
Yeah,
That was a male. Yes. I mean that person didn't even deny it. So,
yeah,
which is scary. But I mean, I just think it all comes down to I mean we all know it's division, right? Like it's just a matter of just dividing people and arguing and
yeah.
division. I mean, yeah, so it's I have said all along that I'm sure you saw that video of Tish walking into the locker
Yes,
room.
I did see that.
I thought I messaged her right away and I was like, thank you. Because when I go across Canada and I do my speeches, I end my speeches with that. And I say, please, fathers, please, because, the fathers are just as important. Guess who's my biggest fight in my fairness for sports and safe spaces for women is women. Women are my biggest enemy in this fight.
Wow.
I can't believe the amount of women that are like, oh no, it's okay. Just let him go in the locker room. The poor guy. He's just, he's got a mental illness. Just let him go in with your daughters.
That's
I
mind-boggling to me.
it's just because you know why? Because women are just naturally more nurturing creatures. We just feel
I'm
sorry for
nurturing. I
yeah,
want
so
my
am I.
daughter to be protected from any nefarious males that not just want, that demand
Yeah.
access to the
But
spaces that are reserved for women and girls.
we know who these women are. You and I know. And it's like, and I said, like, I have seen a man go into the washroom and I have called him out. I was actually in Alberta when I saw it. And I mean, it was funny because I saw him go in and my friends were like, oh God, April just saw that. She's going to drop kick him. But I was just like, but it was just like, I just say at the end of my speech, men, protect your daughters. Like the most important thing and top priority should be the protection of women and children or women and girls.
Yes.
So please, if you see this happening, please call it out.
Yes.
Women, call it out. Protect your daughters. Do not be going into a locker room or a washroom with a man in there. And please, fathers, if you see this happening, call it out. Call it out. Go in there and get your daughter out of there. Do not allow this to happen. We need to use our voices because the more that we do that, like Tish has, the more people are going to notice and say it's wrong and it's going to happen. It'll be a trickling effect, right? It'll be a trickling effect.
Yes. I recall watching a Rebel News report where one of their reporters went to I believe it was a high school sports game, soccer or something like that. And they were confronting the they were confronting the male players, the trans people on the team playing against the girls. And there was fathers there. And he was confronting the fathers saying, like, don't you care about fairness for your daughters? And these men, it was so disgusting to witness. They were so cowardly. They're just like, don't talk to me. You're just you could tell that they just absolutely did not want the conflict, did not want the backlash that might come after that. And they were just completely willing to stay silent. Whether they agreed with it or not, they were willing to stay silent. That's what's mind boggling to me. It's the men. Men, where are you?
No, I
Fathers,
don't know.
where are you?
It's yeah. So I don't know. I know my husband would say something. I
Yeah.
mean, it's yeah, it's true, right? That's again, I go back to Jordan Peterson, right? I was like, where there's a lack of real men out there these days. It's just it's sad.
Yeah.
So but we have to keep pressing forward. And back to your original question, Do I see light at the end of the tunnel? Do I see this changing? I just see, light the good will conquer. It will happen. It's not going to happen like this. It's not going to happen overnight. But if we just keep pressing forward, and it doesn't have to be your religious belief or this and that. Like you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have. It's just. I hate the term because we always say common sense, but it's just naturally gonna happen. It's just naturally gonna go back to the way it was. And I mean, I'm not gonna call this trans thing a fad or but what have you. But I mean, it's just going to go back naturally the way it was before. So I mean, and it's I mean, I live in Ontario, Kat. So I mean, I'm probably in one of the worst. I mean, besides British Columbia. So I'm shipping
Yeah.
away. I have Doug Ford here. So I mean, he hasn't been doing anything. So I mean, he shook my hand a couple of years ago and said, "Oh, I was wearing my Keep Female Sports Female hoodie," and he said,
Mhm.
"Oh, I totally agree with you. I have daughters. I'm all about that." And but he's been silent. So
So what you're saying is we have a serious crisis of cowardice from
mhm.
people who truly believe that it's wrong for males to compete against females, but they're willing to stay absolutely silent about it because they're either protecting their power, their
Yeah.
position, they're fearing backlash, maybe they're scared of losing their job. What would you say to
Mhm.
people who do believe that it's wrong for males to cheat by entering female sports, but they're just that hesitant? They're hesitant to speak up because they're scared of the backlash. They're hesitant to speak up because they just want to go along to get along for the sake of peace.
You know what? Don't be hesitant because I'll tell you. I, so when I got suspended, I didn't cry. I was maybe a little bit shocked, but honestly, my suspension was the best thing that happened because I got worldwide attention on the matter. Like I'm talking worldwide. I mean, England, everywhere would notice. Australia, everyone was talking about it. It got everyone speaking and it got noticed, right? Besides maybe the odd, maybe trans activist, I haven't got any hate mail.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone, and even you would know at the last convention, conservative convention, 88% of people voted yes, they agree that men should not be in women's sports. People across the board, I'm sure across the nation, agree that men should not be in women's sports. Males should not be in female sports. So don't be afraid to use your voice. I mean, probably your neighbor beside you or your coworker beside you agrees with you. I just went to a pickleball event today, a tournament. I'm into pickleball now. Everyone is like, "Oh, are you April Hutchinson?" I get recognized on the street. I get recognized at events. Even people, if I talk to people about it, even at my work, I'll talk about it. They all agree with me. So spark the conversation, talk about it. Because I guess what? Most people are going to agree with you. I'd say 90% of people agree. You're not going to get in trouble for using your voice. And like
And
I said,
in the process, you might
like,
inspire others to say something too.
and you will, exactly, you will inspire. And that's why I keep posting. I try to motivate people to use your voice. And like, if you want, here's the plug. I could plug my merch, but
Go
if
for
you
it.
if
Yes,
you don't want
we'll
to,
get to that. Where can people find your merch? Where can people find your backstory? Where can people find what you're doing?
yeah. So right now, like what I do is I'm just basically like, so I am an ambassador for XXXY Athletics, which is
Mhm.
based in the States, but you can get their merch online. You can get it anywhere in the world. And Riley Gaines is also another ambassador. And I do have my own merch, but the store will be closing December 3rd, just for the time being, while I focus on other stuff. And I have my Save Women's Sports hoodies. I have two that say XX. I have XY hoodies. I have Keep Female Sports Female ball caps, hoodies. Check it out. It's on my website. If you go to www.aprilhutchinson.com, and on that website, you can literally see all my interviews that I've done with Tucker Carlson. I've done interviews. I think I've done 3 interviews with Pierce Morgan. I mean, there's a whole slew of them. I think I'm up to 50. They love me in the States too, Fox News. So,
I hope that that energy of you being in the States, talking to people who speak common sense things and are not afraid to talk about biological reality, I hope some of that gets spilled over into Canada. I know we're more woke than them and people are a bit more scared than in the States to speak about these kind of things. But I so appreciate your voice being the voice of reason and to call all this nonsense out and to help any legislation put forward, for example, like by Daniel Smith, that protects female spaces, female sports, etc. So really appreciate what you're doing there. What's coming up for you? Is there anything coming up for you? Are you going to be speaking anywhere? Do you have anything
Um,
planned for 2026?
I'm going to the Conservative Convention in January. I actually got, I'll be one of the delegates for Andrew Lawton's area. So I'll be able to vote. I just love Andrew.
Okay, great.
So I'll be, yeah. Will you be there at the convention or?
I'm hoping to be there. I'm still trying to
Okay.
work some things out, but I do hope to be there. Yeah.
Okay. So I might see you there. And that's all I'm doing right now. I'm doing a speech at, so actually where I went to rehab for their 50th gala. I'll be the keynote speaker speaking at the Westover Gala. I might be going back to Saskatchewan, just doing another speech. I did an Arcan speech 2 months ago. So I just kind of wait. I mean, and that's another thing I can plug too. If anyone wants me as a speaker, just reach out, go. You can book me through my website as well. So that's basically what I do is just travel across Canada and speak, even at universities, schools. So yeah,
April Hutchinson, thank you so much for your voice and for taking the time to sit down and chat with me about it all.
for sure. Finally, it's a pleasure meeting you. Yeah. You keep
Likewise.
speaking up to you. You're awesome.
Oh gosh, thank you. I try. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider supporting by smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment. If you're watching on X and aren't following already, hit that follow button. And if you would like early access to the videos that I put out, consider subscribing. It's only like $2 a month. You'll also get mediocre bonus personal content from me and priority interactions in comments and DMs. See you next time.